After my last video covering Sonic Drift, and with Sonic Crossworlds being so close, I've had a bit of a fiending for more Sonic racing games, and of all the Sonic racing games out there, there's only one that I had yet to play. Sonic R is such an interesting game to me, since this game has a reputation not only for being a quote, bad game, but there's elements of it that still continue to influence the franchise as well as the series as a whole to this day. But more on that later. First, let's get into what this game is and why it was made in the first place. 1996 marked one of the most important years for gaming. It served as a big transition into 3D, with games like Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot laying the seeds for what platformers could look like in this new era. And Sega, being one of the biggest names in gaming at the time, also charged into this era with their new console, the Sega Saturn. And to me, the Sega Saturn rocked. Just like the Genesis had done before it, the Saturn was able to bring arcade games to your home, with titles like Virtua Fighter 2 and Daytona USA, as well as having its own unique titles like Shining Force 3, Nights into Dreams, and more. But within the first year of the console's release, there was a notable absence from Sonic. And this was because Sega was hard at work on their own Sonic game that would shape the gaming landscape as we know it, and oh, it was cancelled. Yeah, Sega's first attempt at a 3D Sonic game, if you don't count 3D Blast, was going to be a game called Sonic Extreme. Not to be confused with the other cancelled Sonic game called Sonic Extreme. Turns out when Sonic gets extreme, he gets cancelled. Anyways, with the cancellation of Sonic Extreme, and with Sonic Adventure not releasing for another 2 years at this point, Sega was left in a bit of a sour spot. And with no 3D Sonic game in sight, they decided to enlist the help of Traveler's Tales, who previously helped Sega on Sonic 3D Blast, and who you may know as the creator of a lot of different LEGO games. So with that being said, they decided to play it safe and create a sort of 3D Sonic game in his first console racing game, Sonic R. Alright, let's go over the controls real quick, since this is where I see opinions of this game being the most negative. In Sonic R, you have an accelerate button as well as a jump button. Pretty simple stuff. However, the prevailing comment you'll hear from people is that this game has tank controls. And while, yeah, it's definitely nothing compared to the later movement we'd get in entries like Sonic Adventure or even other Sonic racing games, I feel like this statement is a little unfair with how it sells the game to people. While the game doesn't have any ways to stop your character in their tracks, you can use the shoulder buttons to make really sharp turns, and this is the key to making the game feel really fun and fluid to me. I do think that the lack of any stop button is a big bummer, and the game could definitely use with one, but I think that treating it like it's Resident Evil on wheels is just so disingenuous. The game controls fine, and it's honestly really fun once you get over that first hurdle and understand how to utilize the movement effectively. Another thing that this game has is an insanely massive roster, and each of the characters have their own unique gimmicks that are ripped straight from how they play in the original games. You start the game out with only 4 characters, so let's go over them. First up, we have Sonic, who has the ability to spin dash and, more effectively, is his double jump. This makes him by far my favorite character to play when it comes to racing, because his double jumps can make you take some really interesting shortcuts. Next up, we have Tails, who, as you'd expect, is pretty similar to Sonic, with the addition of them being able to fly for a short period of time. Then we have Knuckles, who similarly has his ability to glide, and is probably the most broken character in the game because of it. I mean, some of the shortcuts you can take with him are just insane. Finally, ending the base roster, we have Amy, who drives around in her car. Something I forgot to mention back in my Sonic Drift video is that in that game, Amy apparently has a sentient car, which I guess exists in the Sonic universe. But this isn't the same car, so I guess she just killed him off screen or something. Anyways, Amy is one of the few characters in this game who has the ability to hover over water, which is a trade-off for her not having the ability to jump. Instead, her jump is replaced with a speed boost that you can activate periodically. After completing every race in the game, you then unlock the next character, which is Eggman. He's fairly similar to Amy, with him being able to hover over water. However, his ability comes straight from Sonic Drift, where he's able to plant bombs whenever there's an enemy behind him. So already you have a massive amount of characters with hugely different movesets, but this is only half of the roster. And before we go to talk about the next half of the cast, I think I need to talk about the stages. Similar to the roster, this game starts out with only 4 tracks with then 1 unlockable by completing the others. However, while the game may not have many tracks, they are designed in a way that makes them really replayable. So, on a basic level, these levels are built with the idea that you're using different characters, meaning that there are different shortcuts and optimizations that are only accessible through different characters. A really cool example of this is in the second stage, Radical City, where there's usually a portion of the map that's filled with water. You're expected to jump over it and then continue on and go around the water section. However, a cool feature of this game is that they have different weather conditions that can happen upon starting a race. Not only do these elements add a tiny bit of replayability, making each run feel sort of unique, but if you play things like snowy weather, this water then freezes over, which allows you to skip a huge section of the track by just following the frozen water. This shortcut can also just be taken in any weather when a character has the ability to fly over the water, but I just thought this was so cool. In addition to these shortcuts, each stage also includes its own set of collectibles. One of these collectibles are the golden Sonic coins. They're scattered around the map and are usually in hard to reach places or in some more obscure shortcuts, but in order to have them collected, you need to collect all 5 in a race and then place in the top 3. And as your reward for collecting these and essentially proving that you've mastered said stage, you then get to race against a new unlockable character. These characters include Metal Sonic, for collecting every coin in Resort Island. He plays just like Sonic, however, instead of a double jump, he just gets a massive jump instead. For collecting all of them in Radical City, you get to race against one of Sonic R's most well-known additions to the Sonic series with the Tails doll. Now, Tails doll could have been an entire section of this video in and of itself. I mean, before Sonic.exe ever rose to popularity, I'd argue that Tails doll really took the spot for biggest Sonic creepypasta at the time. And this guy scared the ever-loving hell out of me as a kid. So much so that I would have nightmares for days on end. So there's something kind of cathartic about finally being able to face off against him in his debut game. And honestly, now that I finally got around to playing Sonic R, I feel like Tails doll is honestly more cute than he is scary. It's kind of obvious with these characters that they were designed to be some sort of evil alternate version of the main cast, which only gets cemented later in the roster. But it's just so fascinating to me how the internet and even stuff like the Archie comics latched onto this sort of uncanny vibe that Tails doll has to him. Anyways, with all this being said, he plays just like Tails, even has his ability to fly, but it looks a lot less conventional. After that, we have my favorite stage in the game, Regal Ruin, where we unlock Egg Robo. Egg Robo might be more unique than the other unlocks in this game, because he's not a direct version of another character, but he does share a lot in common with Eggman. But overall, I think his gameplay is drastically different. Unlike all the other unlockable characters, Egg Robo is the only one that cannot hover over water. He can do it in short bursts, but eventually he'll just sink. And his ability is kinda like Eggman's, except he shoots his homing missiles towards any enemy in front of him. And lastly, for our Sonic coin characters, we have a new Sonic R original character with Metal Knuckles. You see what I mean by like the evil versions now? Okay, anyways. Metal Knuckles pretty much just has the exact same abilities as Knuckles. This isn't really important, but like, look at this sick ass skip I got with him. It's kinda sad that Metal Knuckles didn't have the sting power as something like Tails doll. In fact, he only ever reappeared in Sonic Superstars as an optional skin in the multiplayer modes. Anyways, for the final character, we need to talk about another aspect of the stages that I forgot to mention up till now. 4 out of the 5 stages in this game contain either 1 or 2 Chaos Emeralds in them, and most, if not all of them, are gained by using these doors that are locked behind rings. These ring doors are actually really cool because I feel like they're a bit of a more natural way of changing up the way a player can play this game. Sure, you could just run through the stage as fast as possible, or you could use your first lap sort of sandbagging, collecting rings, to then access these shortcuts that'll help you skip parts of the stage later in the game. Anyways, through these doors you can collect these Chaos Emeralds, and then you need to win the race in order to claim them. So combined together with the coins from earlier, there's a lot of replayability with these tracks, and by the time you get around to collecting everything, you've pretty much mastered these things front to back. And as you'd expect, your reward for getting all the Chaos Emeralds is the final unlockable character, Super Sonic. He has Sonic's double jump, increased speed, and he can fly over water. He is by far the most powerful character in this game, but his increased speed honestly makes him kinda hard to play with. Regardless, I just really love the amount of stuff you can do in this game, and this is all just from the Grand Prix. Alongside the Grand Prix, we also have your traditional multiplayer mode, as well as something more interesting with time trials. Now these aren't anything new in a racing game, you just race as fast as possible and boom, you win. But Sonic R has 3 exclusive modes on top of this. One is playing the map in reverse, which I just think is really charming. And then we have stuff that's more interesting, Balloon Hunt and Tag. Balloon Hunt hides 5 balloons around the map, turning your racing track into an Easter egg hunt. And these balloons can be really hard to find sometimes. They're not exactly putting these in the same place that they did the coins or the Chaos Emeralds, and I really respect that. And finally, we have Tag, which pits you against 4 CPUs that will run away from you. And all you gotta do is tag. This is a really cute game mode to have, and it sort of reminds me of Renegade Roundup from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Just a really fun game mode. And with that, I think I've talked about pretty much everything that this game has to offer. So it's finally time to address what I think is the big elephant in the room here. For years, Sonic R has been treated like it is one of the worst games to ever touch a gaming console. I'm not really sure why this is the case. Sure, the controls can be clunky at first, but I really do think that once you get the hang of it, it's pretty fucking fun. Maybe it's just that I have a higher tolerance for games like this, maybe it's personal preference, or maybe it's because of how YouTube treated Sonic as a joke back in the early days. Regardless, I wouldn't blame anyone for not liking this game, but for me personally, I was so incredibly shocked by how much fun I had with this. It feels so nice to take shortcuts, to use different characters, and find new and inventive ways to play the same 5 stages. I do wish we could have had more stages to choose from, since I ended up 100%ing everything the game had to do in under 2 hours. And I do think that there's a validity in the controls being kinda clunky. To be honest, I just want a break button. But regardless, I really love playing this game, and I hope maybe I convinced you to try it out yourself. With that being said, I wanted to thank you for watching the videos this far. The next part is going to be me chilling out, so if you want to go watch another video, then I'll see you later. If you think I earned it, a like and a subscribe go a long way. I also have a Patreon as well as YouTube memberships. These give you access to my private Discord for the channel, as well as having your name show up at the end of the videos. Alright, thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.